My name is Naomi. I'm glad you came in today. I understand that you've been experiencing some stress and anxiety, and I'd love to see how I can help. I do want to let you know that anything you share with me is confidential, with the exception of any concern that I might have about you harming yourself or someone else. That's the one exception. Otherwise, I'm here and I'm going to do my very best to help you find some solutions for these concerns that you came in with today. So can you share a little bit about what you've been going through?
Yeah. So I've been having a lot of trouble sleeping, and I've been having a really hard time focusing in class, and when I'm like at my job. So it just is really stressful because I'm really struggling and falling behind.
Are you experiencing a hard time concentrating in class because you're tired or because you're feeling anxious and having a hard time focusing?
I think it's mostly just because I'm tired. Okay. I'm so tired.
How many hours of sleep are you getting at this point?
2 or 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do not sleep very well.
Right. Is that all together or is it sort of broken up throughout the night?
I'll eventually fall asleep and it'll be together. But I have a really hard time getting to sleep.
Right, okay. And you mentioned that you were having a lot of stress and anxious feelings too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if you can identify at what point you became mindful of the fact that you were dealing with that pretty consistently?
Probably, I hopefully would say around midterm. That's been doing well up until that point.
Okay, yeah. Okay, and that's a full plate. There's a lot going on there. So you're working part-time, you're taking how many units?
I'm taking 8 units.
8 units, and that's a lot. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that would be a time, especially at midterms, when you probably had some papers, maybe some exams, that would become a time when you would feel a little more anxious than usual. What do you do when you feel that way?
When I feel
anxious or stressed?
Binge eat Netflix.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that's one thing you could do. Let's unpack that though. Let's take a look and see what we could do. Some other options. Would you like to hear about what some other successful students have tried?
Yes.
Okay. Well, some students that I've worked with, they will elect to keep a very close eye on their assignments, so that they're able to sort of strategically plan when they get their work done. How are you doing in that part of your process as a student?
I kind of just make a mental note of my stuff. I know I should probably write it down, but it's just so hard to put those kind of papers.
How's that working for you? Not so well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, some students will use a paper planner and they'll write it out old school.
Mm-hmm.
Others will use their phone. They have their technology and they'll enter that in and can actually even put in alarms to help them if they really need that extra push.
Okay.
Do you think that either one of those might be a workable option for you?
I could probably use my phone.
Do you think that if you knew in advance exactly what was due and the dates that they were due, that might reduce some of the stress that you feel?
Oh yeah, it would definitely help.
It would?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's one thing we can consider, right, as an option. So how do you make it through your day when you're only having 2 or 3 hours of sleep? That must be hard.
Yeah, so I'm really super tired, so I'll definitely drink like a lot of caffeine. I know it's not good for me, but like milk is the world, so I don't know, like green teas and sometimes like energy drinks.
And do you notice any of your symptoms of stress or anxiety exacerbated by that caffeine consumption?
Well, it definitely makes me jittery, but it keeps me awake. So.
Yeah, it's kind of a vicious cycle, right?
Mhm.
So clearly, if you're drinking caffeine throughout the entire day, it's going to make getting to sleep a little bit harder, or maybe a lot harder, depending upon your chemistry and who you are as a person overall.
Mhm.
But I also understand that it could be kind of a challenge for you to give that up when you still are in the middle of your semester.
Mhm.
What do you think that you would be willing to do in terms of, it's quite all right, to address that? Is that something you feel like you could tackle right now, or do you feel like maybe you would have to wait until the end of the semester?
Maybe over winter break.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's a natural break in the routine of school, and if you're really, really tired in the morning, you can kind of maybe trudge along until you can get your body back in the swing of a natural sleep cycle.
Mhm.
So if you were to do that, what other things would you drink instead?
Like peppermint tea.
Mm-hmm.
And Sprite doesn't have caffeine in it, right? So Sprite.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So you like your sweet drinks, or
yeah.
your, okay. So we don't want to eliminate, flavor from your life, of course. And if that sounds like something that would be a workable option, hopefully by the time spring semester begins, you would be able to be back at least anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of sleep in the course of your night, because you would not be taking in as much caffeine in the course of your day.
Mhm.
Of course, that's only one piece of it, though. And I do have quite a few students who experience a lot of stress and anxiety. It's just sort of par for the course with what you have going on in your life right now. And that's perfectly normal. But I do know that there are some things that come up quite a bit with students that they have tried to kind of take care of that stress with some self-care strategies in the middle of their semester.
Okay.
Have you considered, what have you tried so far?
Playing with it until I pass out.
Okay, is that something you enjoy doing?
Sometimes.
How many days a week do you do that?
I wouldn't say I play that often.
Not that often?
Yeah.
If you were to do that on a weekly basis, to give yourself an avenue for some exercise, how many times a week do you think you could do that?
Maybe like on my weekend.
On your weekends?
Yeah, so like 2 times.
How do you usually feel after you've played?
Asleep.
Asleep, okay. So it really does help burn through some of that excess energy and gets you to a place where you feel like you can relax and sleep? Okay. So that sounds like a pretty good alternative to not sleeping and having an IV drip of caffeine throughout your day. So it sounds like you've got a fair amount of stress, but not any more than you can handle. And I do think that with some of these strategies that you've identified, that you can really turn this around for yourself. So basically what I've heard you describe is that you have been dealing with quite a bit of stress and anxiety. You have found that it is exacerbated by your caffeine consumption, but you feel you need the consumption of caffeine in order to make it through your day because you're not sleeping. So starting with having a little bit more organization in your assignments so that you're not worried about something coming due and not being prepared for that is something that you say you're willing to try, and that you will start to transition some of your beverages to caffeine-free options, and dealing with some of that stress and excess energy by exercising a couple days a week. That sounds like a really good plan that you've put in place for yourself. And, we can work on that together as the weeks progress. And I want to reassure you that if you find that one or more of those options is not working, that's perfectly okay, because there are many other options out there. What's important is that you find what works for you. And what's even more important than that is recognizing that even though these things might feel somewhat out of your control right now, because when you're feeling stressed, sometimes it can feel very hard to rein that in. Or if you're not able to sleep, we can all feel a little bit desperate after too many nights of 2 to 3 hours of sleep, right? So it's really important to remember that this is temporary and that you have the ability to make some lifestyle choices that can lead you to back to a place where you're able to sleep, your stress is manageable even though it's present, and you have a little bit better regulation in when you're doing your assignments because you're right on top of them. Does that sound like a workable option for you?
Yeah. I'll put it in my phone.
Okay.
So I don't forget it.
All right. That sounds great. I'm so glad that you came in today.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.